The nectar of setas was bleeding into the sand. Ilara watched from the stone embankment, her knuckles white as she gripped the sun-warmed parapet. Where yesterday there had been a mighty, churning flow, today there was only a wounded trickle, revealing cracked clay riverbed like an old scar. The air, once thick with the smell of water and blooming lotus, now carried the dust of the desert and the panicked murmurs of the city behind her. The lifeblood of the Satan Empire was vanishing before her eyes. "It's not sinking," a gruff voice stated beside her. Kale, the desert scout, spat into the receding water. "It's retreating, like an animal licking its wounds." Ilara, the youngest geomancer ever accepted into the Imperial College, bristled. "Rivers do not retreat, they flow. This is a geological catastrophe, a failure of the Earth Song." Kale merely grunted, his eyes, narrowed to slits from a lifetime under the sun, scanning the horizon. "The Earth has its own reasons, doesn't care for your songs." They were an ill-fitting trio, summoned by a desperate empress. Ilara, her mind a library of tectonic theory and resonant harmonics. Kale, who trusted only what he could see and touch. And old Anya, the keeper of the sacred maps, who now hobbled toward them, leaning heavily on a staff of petrified wood. "The maps are awake," Anya whispered, her voice like the rustle of ancient parchment. "They ache. The river's path, it shifts in the vellum. It was never a straight line. It was a meander, a purposeful one." Their journey up the dying river was a funeral procession. Villages of sun-baked mud, which for centuries had thrived on the banks, were now stranded. Boats lay canted on the sand, their hulls groaning. The air grew heavier, filled with the silence of absent frogs and the desperate cries of waterfowl circling a sky that promised nothing. Ilara tried to listen to the Earth Song, the complex network of magical energies that geomancers manipulated to shape the world. But here, the song was a dissonant wail, a screech of wrongness that grated against her senses. She attempted minor harmonies, channeling energy into the riverbed to coax the water forth. The sand drank her magic greedily, offering only a brief, muddy seepage before returning to its aridity. "You're pushing against a tide that isn't there," Kale observed, chewing on a strip of dried meat. "You treat the world like a problem to be solved, not a thing to be understood." "And you understand it so well?" Ilara snapped, sweat tracing lines through the dust on her face. "I understand that a scared animal bites. The land is scared." It was Anya who found the first true clue, not on her maps, but in the earth itself. She knelt, her old fingers brushing against a strange, iridescent scale half buried in the bank. It was larger than a shield, pulsating with a faint, sickly light. "This is not stone," she murmured. "This is skin." The revelation unfolded slowly, then all at once. The riverbanks were not earthen. As they traveled further from the Empire's heart, they saw them for what they were: colossal, curved ribs of a living creature, half submerged in the desert. The nectar was not water, but a life-sustaining fluid coursing through a being of unimaginable scale. The fertile silt was its shed cells, the rhythmic floods its heartbeat. They were not following a river, they were tracking a wound. The final leg of their journey took them into a canyon of living tissue, the walls throbbing with a pained, labored rhythm. The air was thick with a coppery medicinal smell. And here, the Earth Song Ilara had sensed all her life revealed its horrifying truth. It wasn't the song of the planet, it was a parasite. Veins of raw imperial magic, the same magic that powered their cities, irrigated their fields, lit their streets, crisscrossed the creature's hide like poisonous ivy, burning into its flesh. The Empire's glory was a disease. Their geomancy was a weapon they had been driving into the heart of their benefactor for 1,000 years. Ilara fell to her knees, vomiting. Every elegant equation, every proud manipulation of the Earth Song was a lie. She had been a physician poisoning her patient and calling it a cure. The maps, Anya said, her eyes wide with a terrible awe. They weren't charting a river. They were charting a migration route, a cycle. We built our empire on its back and trapped it here. Cale simply stared, his cynicism burned away by the sheer, awful truth. Gods, he breathed, we are the plague. The antagonist was not a person. It was the legacy of an entire civilization, the inertia of progress, the poison of ignorance. Ilara's internal conflict, her desire to fix the world with her knowledge, shattered and reformed. She could not fix this. She could only beg forgiveness. She approached the pulsing, wounded tissue where the magical veins were thickest. She placed her hands not to manipulate, but to feel. She let the creature's pain, a deep, ancient, cosmic agony, flow into her. She did not sing a song of command. She sang a song of apology, a song of release. She didn't force her will upon the magic. She unwove it. Thread by painful thread, she dismantled the geometry that bound the creature, her own energy flaring in protest. It was like carving out a part of her own soul. Cale and Anya stood guard, but there was no enemy to fight, only the consequence of their collective sin. With a final resonant snap, the last vein of imperial magic dissolved. For a moment, nothing. Then a great shuddering sigh passed through the earth. The canyon walls convulsed. The trickle of life fluid stopped entirely. And then, from the depths, a new song began. Faint at first, then growing stronger. It was a song of healing, of ancient pathways remembered. The ground beneath them shifted, not in collapse, but in purposeful, monumental movement. The creature, the world river, was stirring. It was beginning its long-delayed migration. They emerged from the canyon to watch the desert transform. The colossal form began to move, with a slowness that spoke of eons, heading for a distant sea it had not visited in millennia. In its wake, it left a scar, but a clean one, a path not of water, but of potential. The empire would fall. Its cities would thirst, its magic would fade, but the world would live. Anya looked at the empty, scarred land, a strange peace on her wrinkled face. The maps are blank. It is time for new ones. Cale put a hand on Ilara's shoulder, a simple, solid gesture. She leaned into the touch, her body trembling with exhaustion and a grief that was also a hope. They had not saved their world. They had awakened a new one. And as the first true wind of the unburdened desert swept across the sands, it carried not dust, but the scent of a beginning.